When the words coming out of your mouth are true and you believe what you're saying, that's authenticity. Welcome to I Am Nineveh. If this is your first show, you are in for a wild ride, I promise you. And I'm not always this intense. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much. If you're listening, so excited. If you're watching, so excited. Why? Because I've got a new studio. Been working on my studio, and it is looking fabulous, is it not? My show is now on YouTube, so you can actually watch. I've also got video clips if you want to check out the studio on Instagram. Just follow me at Nineveh Madsen. All right, let's dive into this. This is going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be controversial because it shouldn't be that controversial, but it's going to be controversial, okay? And I want to point something out. There is a pervasive problem in society today, and that is that we are too agreeable. And not only are we too agreeable, when we disagree on something, there's a cancellation policy without consequence. That means you can be canceled, I can be canceled. There's almost like a coup d'etat for just about everything. So anyone who disagrees is being overthrown without question. And I want to dissect this for a second here. Agreeable means what? Let's take a look at the dictionary. It's an adjective, by the way. And it means enjoyable and pleasurable, pleasant. A cheerful and agreeable companion. We would all love to have a cheerful and agreeable companion, but could you imagine having a cheerful and agreeable companion 24/7? Some people are probably saying, yeah, I would like that, like some of that. Hey, where's the excitement if you agree on everything, right? Now, here's the thing. We are all walking around doing our best trying to be pleasant 24/7, and I see that as an issue. All the pleasantries are getting us where? Because if we're too pleasant, and there's such a thing as being too pleasant, almost to the point that we're being fake with each other, there's no realness. But on top of that, this concept of being agreeable is what I want to dive into. When you compound that pleasantry, everyone just being pleasant and nice to be nice, and then it ends up being fake, sometimes that compounded can have irreversible consequences. And one of those consequences, and I'm going to go there, guys. I am going to go there, and I'll tell you why. I want to use an extreme example so you can understand the seriousness of what happens when you in your own life are too agreeable. But I'm going to zoom out and make this about society for a second here. I'm going to use this example to really hit this point home with you. So what is one of those consequences? Well, that is, and this is not my belief, that men are women and women are men. Yeah, I'm going to talk about this, and I don't fear condemnation, guys. I worked in broadcast news for over a decade, okay? I have gotten just about every nasty email you can imagine about the way that I look, about the way that I dress, about the way that I talk, about who I am. And I spent the last 10 years behind the scenes building business, and baby, I am ready to be forward-facing again. And being forward-facing takes courage. Now, one of the things about working in broadcast, I got to hide behind the scripts. I got to hide behind the stories. This is different. We're here to have real talk about our personal development journeys, right? And in the mix of that, I'll be interviewing people, and I'll be talking about things that I'm passionate about. And this is one of them. And I'm okay not being agreeable about this. So I want to be courageous for you. So what happens is this example of men are women and women are men. That's like being debated in social media today and across society. This is a result of us being too agreeable with each other. And what happens when we become too agreeable as a society? And I'm going to tie this back to you as an individual, I promise you that, but not until I use this as a prime example. And it's an extreme example, I admit. Now, what I'm about to say is what some people believe. It's not what I believe, but there are people out there that believe this. And I quote, people have periods. People, not women, not men, but people. That is the consequence of being too agreeable. That is the consequence of you sitting back and hiding behind what I think has now become kind of a ridiculous slogan of women supporting women. Now, this quote that I'm talking about is actually an ad. The people have periods. It's part of an advertising campaign, and I'm going to have my director and producer actually pull this up if you're watching it on video. If you're listening, I think it's worth not necessarily hitting stop on the episode, but after you listen to the entire episode, go back to my Instagram. You'll find it on my grid or watch it on YouTube so you can see what I'm actually referring to, okay? The ad that I'm referring to, and here's what's interesting. This ad was actually from the year 2021. I'm time-stamping this. It's 2023 right now. This just started to go viral. I'm not sure why. This is actually not the first ad of its kind. These types of ads where we're pushing different gender identities and saying things like people have periods, women have periods. Actually, let me fix that for you. Women have periods. Only women have periods. But this isn't new. There's actually ad campaigns like this that have dated back to the year 2017. But this has just started to go viral, and so I thought I would talk about it and use it as an example of how being too agreeable can land us here. This campaign was actually launched by a company called Luteal. By the way, it is biologically impossible for a man to have a luteal phase in their cycle, but nice try. Interesting name. This company actually sells products to promote menstrual health and symptom relief, and it was founded by a woman. She doesn't identify as a woman, and that's okay, and that's her prerogative, but nonetheless, a woman at birth. This is a woman who believes this, and that's fine. She's entitled to that belief. But when we go around saying women supporting women and women need to support women, here's what happens because we become too agreeable. This is where it's landed us. This manufactured concept that all women must support all women has actually created division between men and women. There's all sorts of consequences that have resulted from the slogan, women supporting women must be a woman that supports women. If you don't support another woman, there's a special place in hell for you. No, there's not. It's forced us to be way too agreeable with each other, even if it's against our values. Now, I don't want you to be shocked by the ad because, like I said, it's not the first company founded by a female promoting menstrual products, hygiene products, with a transgender community in mind. And what's my point here? What point am I trying to make? I disagree with the messaging and the mission. I disagree with any for-profit and non-profit company that promotes the elimination of traditional values, specifically the traditional values that I stand for. I disagree. Oh, look at that. I'm still alive. Did I get canceled? Am I canceled yet? You can't cancel me. You cannot cancel my opinion. You cannot cancel my beliefs, and you cannot cancel the identity that I'm rooted in. But there are a lot of people out there that are very afraid of saying what I just said. And I want to give you the courage to speak up and to start being disagreeable.
Thanks for tuning into my show. As the co-owner and COO of Superhuman, I want to invite you to learn more about how we help high-achieving men and women just like you become top performers in their bodies and minds. Book a free call with my team. Go to superhuman.com to get on our schedule now.
And I'm not saying that you needed to do it with this particular topic. The reason why I use this as an example is because it does take guts. It does take courage to say what I just said, to publicly disagree and stand in that no matter what. So Saying this, by the way, I want you to know, wasn't easy for me. A year ago, 2 years ago, I couldn't do that. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. Why? Because I was afraid of what I would be labeled. And I think a lot of people are still afraid of what they're going to be labeled. I, however, am now prepared for what disagreement is going to bring me. I'm okay with that. And let me ask you, though, when's the last time that you confidently disagreed with something or someone? And I'm not saying you had to go on a podcast and publicly declare it, but even in private or with an individual, when's the last time that you actually disagreed with something and disagreed with someone? And by the way, you can disagree without being degrading. I don't have to degrade the transgender community to disagree with their morals and values, but I can say that I disagree with their value system, and that's okay. I'm not calling them names. I'm not doing anything wrong by disagreeing, right? There's a lot of things that I disagree with and a lot of things that I agree with. I do, however, have the right to disagree without being labeled something derogatory. And by the way, if someone gives me a derogatory label, that's perfectly fine with me. I actually don't care. I literally don't care because I am not performing for people's approval. And I think that's the problem. A lot of us are performing for people's approval. And the minute that you stop caring about other people's approval, including your parents' approval, your friends' approval, your partner's approval, is the minute that you're set free. The problem that I'm pointing out is how society has cultivated fear, and most of you are so scared of being canceled, you've become too agreeable, right? And being agreeable is exactly your problem. When you are overly agreeable and excessively pleasant, you will not and cannot get what you want out of life. You're going to have to be willing to disagree in order to live authentically, okay? Disagree with your partner, disagree with society, disagree with friends, disagree with your colleagues, disagree with your boss. In that disagreement is where you discover your values. In that disagreement is where you find your voice. In that disagreement is where you gain confidence. In that disagreement is where you foster conviction. In that disagreement is where you discover who you are and what you are made of. Now, most people are not rooted in their identities. They don't have a bedrock or a solid foundation that they've built that identity in and on. And it is so easy to sway an identity that is built on quicksand. All these people being swayed by what the world is telling them that they are, it's because they're agreeable. Agreeable to someone else's plan, agreeable to someone else's idea of who you should be and who you shouldn't be. And agreeable people are easily influenced and easily manipulated. I think a lot of people have been manipulated, my friends. Being excessively agreeable is why so many people actually suffer from so much anxiety. You're too worried about what other people think. You've got too many dichotomies running in your mind, which is running your body. There's no congruence because you have allowed yourself to become confused. And of course you're confused because you're listening to all the noise, all the junk out there. So I would limit that. I've talked about that before. Limit the junk, limit the content that you're consuming, and be very careful about what you allow to influence you. Clarity creates congruence within your mind and body. Agreement is what got us into the mess left behind from the pandemic and during the pandemic. Being agreeable is sitting back. It's sitting back and allowing life to happen to you instead of for you. Being agreeable means having friends you only sort of kind of like, a partner you only sort of kind of like, a career you only sort of kind of like. Being agreeable is for average people. Being agreeable makes you average. If you want excellence, start disagreeing. Saying no thanks to that, yes to this. Start getting comfortable exercising your voice. And in the process of exercising, just like physical exercise, y'all, it's going to be uncomfortable at times. It's going to be painful, but the muscle is going to grow. It's going to become so strong. And even if you get knocked down, if you're exercising that muscle, it becomes so strong that even if you get knocked down, you'll have that muscle memory. And because you have that muscle memory, you're going to be able to get back a lot more easily than the person that had no muscle at all. Exercise the muscle of disagreement and not being too agreeable just because you want to keep the peace all the time, because you're a people pleaser. And I've talked about that before. So be that person. Be the person that pushes back, that questions your boss, that suggests something better because you're okay with disagreeing. Be the person who has boundaries. Be the person who has values. Be the person willing to find the company that aligns with them. You don't have to work somewhere that doesn't align with your values. That is your prerogative. Don't think small. Stop being in the scarcity mindset. Start thinking abundantly. There are a lot of people out there that, say, I can't say this or that because of where I work. Well, then if it doesn't align with your values, perhaps find the place that does align with who you are and your values so that you can live authentically, because you deserve that kind of freedom. Now, you get where I'm going here. Being too agreeable means staying behind the scenes. It means sitting down and shutting up. And ain't no one gonna shut me up. And that's the last thing that we need in this world. The last thing that we need in this world are people sitting back, sitting down, and shutting up. There are not enough of us using our voice. So if you ever doubted yourself, know that your voice, that what you have to say, even if it's going to ruffle a few feathers, is actually important. It is needed. But you've got to be okay. You've got to be okay with the discomfort of disagreement. You have to be okay with the discomfort of disagreement. I want you to lean into that disagreement. Lean into it. Lean into it so much that it does feel a little painful, because it's only through the exercise of that muscle that you'll begin to gain the strength to actually use your voice. All right, if you love it, love this episode, you know what to do. I think I got my message across, you guys. If you don't love it, you know what to do, and that's okay too. That's your prerogative. Like I said, I don't care. And remember, the invitation to listen and engage is always inclusive. What I stand for is exclusive. Thank you. If you're loving this show, connect with me on Instagram, share this episode, and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. Thanks for listening.